Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Friday Ramblings, and we're going back to the WWF so we can break down those championship belts that are what it's all about. That's right, folks. It's time for another fast and dirty, furious and rando history of a WWF championship. This time we are picking on the Intercontinental Championship, often considered the second most important title in the company. Now, as we discussed in our previous video about the Forgotten WWF Championships, the Intercontinental Championship was created when the North American Championship was essentially upgraded when a never actually happened, but it was reported to happen, tournament in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, was said to have occurred, and the first Intercontinental Champion, Pat Patterson, was crowned, having won the tournament by unifying the North American Championship and the doesn't actually exist, but we're pretending it does to justify all this, South American Championship. Thus, the term Intercontinental originally referred to the North and South American continents. However, after the first major belt redesign, it would now center things on the Atlantic Ocean, and thus Europe and Africa were implied to be represented as well. However, it would still be quite a while before the belts would actually be defended overseas. Championship was first defended outside of North America by Rick Rude against the Ultimate Warrior in Turin, Italy in 1989. And in 1991, Mr. Perfect made the first Asian defense against the Texas Tornado at a WWF co-promotion with Super World of Sports in Tokyo, Japan. It first came to Africa on April 6, 1997, when champion Rocky Maivia, also known as The Rock, also known as Dwayne Johnson, pinned Savio Vega in Durban, South Africa. Shelton Benjamin would make the first Australian defense on April 7, 2005, pinning Gene Snitsky in Brisbane. So, over the years, it truly has become more of an international belt than Intercontinental, but, you know, they go with Intercontinental. On April 1st, 1990, at WrestleMania 6, Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion The Ultimate Warrior defeated WWF World Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan to win the world title, and the Intercontinental Championship was vacated for the first time soon after. Mr. Perfect would then win a tournament to become the new Intercontinental Champion. On October 17, 1999, Chyna became the only woman to hold the Intercontinental Championship by defeating Jeff Jarrett at the No Mercy pay-per-view event. In March 2001, the title was unified, after purchasing WCW in March 2001, the title was unified with the WCW United States Championship at Survivor Series later that year, causing the United States Championship to become inactive. Then United States Champion Edge won the match, defeating then Intercontinental Champion Test. Thus, Edge was the first champion of that post-merger era. We're definitely going to discuss the U.S. title, especially its WCW incarnation in the future. However, the WCW invasion, well, the less said the better. Technically, I could justify making a defense of the angle, but at the end of the day, it's only defending it in the sense of I can rationalize why it was attempted the way it was, not that it was necessarily a brilliant idea. Now, more importantly, in 2002, after the first brain split had begun and WWF was renamed WWE, Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff decided he really only needed one singles title on Raw, and he had a whole bunch. First thing to do was merge the Intercontinental Championship with the European Championship, which was decided in a ladder match between Intercontinental Champion Rob Van Dam, who defeated European Champion Jeff Hardy. A few weeks later, Eric Bischoff would then book a 6-way match for the Hardcore Championship, which had for many years been contested under 24/7 rules, meaning as long as there is a known licensed WWF referee to make the pinfall, the title can be won at any point, any time, whether you are in an arena or not. The 6-way match would put an end to the 24/7 era, but more importantly, the winner of that match, who happened to have been the defending champion Tommy Dreamer, would go on to compete against Rob Van Dam to merge the Intercontinental and Hardcore Championships. Rob Van Dam would win. All this led up to, once again, just about a month later, a little over, on September 30th, 2002, shortly after Rob Van Dam lost the Intercontinental Championship to Kane, Eric Bischoff booked a merger match between the World Heavyweight Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, the world title having been held by Triple H, who won the match, making him the Raw brand's sole male singles champion. So, if you think about it, this really, in a weird way, put a lot of emphasis on the Intercontinental title in that over the span of just under a year, it absorbed the legacy and lineage of the WCW United States Championship, the WWF European Championship, and the Hardcore Championship before all those legacies that it absorbed were then funneled into the World Heavyweight Championship when it absorbed the Intercontinental title. However, it wouldn't be much of an induction and a rambling if that was everything that was said and done for the Intercontinental Championship, but more importantly, you'd be wondering, well, if all that happened, why can I see the Intercontinental Championship on current WWE television? Because after all this shenanigans, Raw gained a co-general manager in the in-ring retired Stone Cold Steve Austin, who, being a former Intercontinental Champion himself, multi-time, decided to reactivate the Intercontinental Championship just 1 year later in May of 2003, declaring any former champion on the Raw roster eligible to enter a Battle Royale at Judgment Day for the title. Christian won the Battle Royale to win the championship and restore the secondary singles title to Raw. Yay! Now, as I said, over time, the Intercontinental title had gone through several design changes. However, when in 2011 Cody Rhodes won the title, he would actually introduce a throwback version designed to look like the classic white strap title that had not been seen in, almost a couple decades. Actually, let me see, that would be... about a couple decades. Maybe a little less. But either way, definitely over 10 years. Closer to 20 than 10, is what I'm saying. Although there were slight, tweak modifications made to it, it was still considered a throwback style belt. Eventually the belt, due to the brand splits and the yearly superstar drafts / lotteries / superstar shakeups, would bounce back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. This would be all well and good and fun. It is, since 2019, been part of SmackDown, which is wonderful things. And its most recent physical design debuted in November of 2019. So, let's break down some of the important Intercontinental champions to keep an eye on. As we said, your original champion was Pat Patterson, who would go on to hold the title for 232 days. After him, it would later be passed on to people like Ken Pantera, Pedro Morales, and Don Morocco, along with the great Greg Valentine for 285 days himself. Leading to... hold on. Sorry, I thought I had a sneeze coming. It's just such an exciting title history that it's making me physically unbalanced. Eventually, though, Randy Savage would begin his iconic 414-day reign, which would end at the hand of Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3 in what is considered potentially one of the greatest matches in WWF history and definitely the greatest Intercontinental title match in history, as well as possibly one of the greatest WrestleMania matches in history. Seriously, go see that match if you want to see two guys who are definite icons and Hall of Famers performing at potentially their best. Unfortunately, Ricky Steamboat would only hold it for 65 days before the Honky Tonk Man would win it, going on a 454-day reign, which still currently stands as the record for the longest single reign. He would eventually be beat by the Ultimate Warrior, who would briefly lose it to Rick Rude, gain it back before vacating it when he won the world title from Hulk Hogan, which we had previously mentioned. We then enter into the glorious early 90s, where such luminaries as Mr. Perfect, Kerry Von Erich under his Texas Tornado character, Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, British Bulldog, hell, even a 2-day reign by Jacques Rougeau as the Mountie, as well as Shawn Michaels, all leading up to Michaels, well, one of many title vacancies for Michaels, but specifically the one that led to Razor Ramon winning the belt before Shawn would come back and the two would compete in WWF's first televised and official ladder match that occurred at WrestleMania 10 and is also in contention for one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. Razor Ramon would then go on to feud with his real-life buddy Diesel, as well as legend and Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett. Shawn Michaels would eventually come back to win the belt due to a real-life incident involving a fight at a nightclub. He would forfeit it again. Razor Ramon would win it back after being held by Dean Douglas for about 20 minutes. Dean Douglas, of course, also being known as Shane Douglas, the ECW legend. We would then get reigns from people like Goldust, Mark Marrow, our buddy Triple H under his original extended name of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and the aforementioned Rocky Maivia, our buddy Conquering Hollywood, Dwayne Johnson, as well as Owen Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin, who would eventually vacate it due to an injury he suffered when winning the title from Owen Hart in the infamous SummerSlam match. Owen Hart would win back the vacated title before losing it back to Stone Cold, who would then have his first title feuds with The Rock before they started fighting over the world title a few years later when they both descended to the main event scene. Triple H would surface again, setting the seeds for his main event world title feuds with The Rock, before vacating it due to injury, bringing in the era of guys like Shamrock, Val Venus, Road Dogg, The Godfather. Oh look, Jeff Jarrett's back. We get a one-day reign from Edge, who would go on to hold it more later. D'Lo Brown, who was also European champion at the time, being the first Eurocontinental champion. The brief reign of China we mentioned earlier. Everybody's rock and roll god icon, Chris Jericho. And Kurt Angle, who would also win the European title, making him another Eurocontinental champion. The infamous, usually not said by name, but we're going to say it here because we do not fear history. We are also not approving or disapproving of anybody, Chris Benoit, who would go on, swap it back and forth with Jericho, as well as Rikishi. Oh, we got another reign from China. The late Eddie Guerrero, Billy Gunn. Oh, Triple H wanders back down to win it back again, feuding with Jeff Hardy, before dropping it to Kane. We then get greats like Lance Storm, Edge, Christian, Test, William Regal, and of course Rob Van Dam, leading to the title merger era. And more reigns for Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, the reign of Kane that led into the title being unified with the world title held by Triple H, which makes him the last recognized champion of this era. Coming back, we get more reigns from Christian, Rob Van Dam, Chris Jericho, as well as Booker T and the future legend killer himself, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, Carlito, and look at this, the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair, won it in September 2005. Managing to hold the title for 155 days. By winning the Intercontinental title in 2005, Ric Flair also became the oldest Intercontinental champion on record. Johnny Nitro, later John Morrison, as well as about 18 other last names on the indies. Our old buddy Umaga, Santino Marella, more reigns for Jeff Hardy and Christian, Kofi Kingston, these days known simply usually as just Kofi of the New Day, as in 2008 he would start building up his legacy as a single star. A few more title reigns from Morelli and Regal before. Chicago's most controversial son, CM Punk, would win the belt before a short reign by JBL, who would then lose it to Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 25 and then in Rage announce his retirement. Sure, it would then swap the belts with Chris Jericho, John Morrison, Drew McIntyre, Kofi, Dolph Ziggler, Wade Barrett, Cody Rhodes, who brought back the white strap belt we had mentioned previously. A brief little reign for Big Show. More fun for Christian, Kofi, The Miz picking up his Intercontinental title for the first time. He would pick it up a couple more times. Curtis Axel, the son of previous Intercontinental Mr. Champion, Mr. Perfect. Big E Langston, currently known as Big E of the New Day, would have a run with the 167-day run with the Intercontinental title. More fun with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler. A brief 27-day reign for Luke Harper, also known as Brody Lee. May he rest in peace. Our boy Daniel Bryan finally wins it in March of 2015 in a 7-way ladder match at WrestleMania 31. Kevin Owens wins it. Dean Ambrose wins it. Zack Ryder wins it. We get a reign from Roman Reigns. We get a reign from Seth Rollins. That's right, all 3 members of the Shield have held the Intercontinental Championship at different points, and in fact have fought each other for it, before it being won by Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor, trading it back and forth before Shinsuke Nakamura won it, held it for 201 days before losing it to Braun Strowman, who would lose it in a 3-on-1 handicap to Sami Zayn, who also had on his team Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. It would then be won by AJ Styles before Jeff Hardy would one last reign from it. Former champions like Sami Zayn and Big E would win it back again. Apollo Crews would get his infamous win as part of his Nigerian warlord chieftain gimmick. Thankfully that's over and he's on NXT. And we all culminating with, on June 10th, 2022, our current champion Gunther, formerly known as Walter, taking possession of the belt after defeating Ricochet. So, what's that bring us to? Let's get to some hard data numbers. Pedro Morales has held the Intercontinental title more than anybody else, having won it for a combined 619 days. In the modern era, that nod goes to The Miz, who has the second longest number of combined days held at 597, but needing 8 reigns to get to that number over Pedro's 2. Chris Jericho has held it 9 times, which is more than anybody else, although his combined days is only 318, as a lot of his reigns were short reigns during an era where people were swapping them back and forth. Yay. The shortest reign is Dean Douglas at less than a day. We mentioned Shawn Michaels forfeited the belt for them, only to have Razor Ramon come out, challenge Dean Douglas for it, and win it less than an hour later. However, Zack Ryder and the Mountie also held it for only a day or 2 themselves. Other short-run champions include Test, Rikishi, and Road Dogg at 2 weeks. And there you go, folks. That is the hard data of the Intercontinental Championship history. Now, as I said, we did gloss over a lot of the back and forth title reigns and exchanges, but these are your main highlights. As we said, for many times, the WWE has been considered the second most important belt in the company. It is often referred to, especially in the 80s, the workhorse belt, as it was held usually by the guy in the company who could put on the best in-ring physical matches, where the world champion was usually the guy that, you know, like a Hogan or a Savage, tended to be the most larger-than-life charismatic person, and thus the face of the company, when your company is one that heavily relies on TV. I do recommend pretty much any given Intercontinental title match that makes a top 10 list. As we said, the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match. You have the Randy Savage Ricky Steamboat WrestleMania 3 match. The 3-way match at WrestleMania 16 between Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, and Chris Benoit, in which the European Championship was also on the line, is certainly an interesting match to watch, as all three men gave their best to try to steal the show that year. Although I know many people are leery of this because of Chris Benoit, but you know what? It's an individual choice. As I said before, we are not going to judge anybody for their views on Chris Benoit and if they can emotionally and psychologically bring themselves to watch his matches. You know, that is your thing. Please do not argue in the comments threads. We admit the man existed. We admit he won the Intercontinental Championship and held it, defended it a little bit, and that's all we're saying. The man existed. The man won matches. Some of those were championship matches. That's it. That's all we're saying. Still, next week we're going to have a different topic, but it will be rambling. It will be entertainment breakdowns, and I do look forward to you being there. We have a few more championships to break down the history of. I hope you will join us. And ultimately, remember, stay positive, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay watching Roulette Productions. Like, comment, subscribe, but don't bring the hate. This is your haven. Because it's all about the entertainment, so let's be entertaining. Bye-bye, folks.